Hello and welcome to my reading log for the month of August 2023. Now this month my reading log's coming out first because my haul hasn't arrived yet. So I did another order with Sci-Fi and there's been some delays and it hasn't arrived yet, so my haul's going to be late again. So I'm hoping that it's here by next Sunday and I can get it out then. Hopefully, once they actually dispatch it, it'll only take a day or two to get here. So I'm hoping it gets dispatched soon. So that'll be a haul next week. Anyway, for now, let's get on with the reading log. This month I read 27 volumes, if you count the omnibus as 3 different ones. And on the 1st of August, I read Game Between the Suits, Volume 3, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is my favourite volume in this series so far. This is one of my favourite steamship titles. I really like it, but I really enjoyed this volume. See, this is a spicy Josei series under steamship. So yeah, we follow our 2 main characters, and I don't remember their names, Seo and Ryoichi. And they're like participating in this game where she's kind of married to her work, and so no partner stays with her very long, and then he starts working in her office, so he proposes that they go out with each other and like have sex with each other, but if either of them end up falling in love with someone else, they'll just break it off. So they're kind of it's kind of more like a colleagues with benefits sort of thing where they'll play around with each other. But I'm pretty sure she is starting to fall for him. So yeah. And you've also got a bit more of his backstory in this volume. So yeah, I like this volume. And I thought it was good. And on the second day of the month, I read volume 8 of Sasaki Miano. And I gave this 3.5 stars as well. So this volume had quite a lot of side stories. So we've got, I think, 3 main chapters and then a bunch of side stories. But this is like kind of half full coma and half not full coma. But yeah, we're past where the anime ended now. Yeah, and I really like this one. It's a sweet BL manga which follows a Fudanchi. A Fudanchi is a guy who's into BL. And this guy is senpai. And he finds out that he's into BL and he starts hanging out with them. And then they start to like each other. And it's a very cute one. Yeah, and so yeah, we're getting to explore their relationship now. And I'm really enjoying it still. So that's volume 8. Next, on the 3rd and the 4th, it took me 2 days to read this one because it's a bit thicker. I read Manner of Death, Volume 1. This is a 2-volume Thai BL based off a novel. There is also a live-action adaptation of this, which I haven't watched it, but my niece has watched it, and she also read this first volume, and she said the live-action is a lot different. It's like there's stuff in the live action that doesn't happen in the manga, there's stuff in the manga that doesn't happen in the live action. So yeah, she said that the live action adaptation is quite a bit different. But anyway, this is like a sort of mystery thriller series where we follow this mortician, and he is called to investigate this woman who has been found dead in her apartment. And everyone's assuming that it's suicide because of her past and all the evidence and that. So he goes to investigate, and he realizes whilst he's there that there's the sign on her points to murder. So he's gonna write this coroner's report about it being a murder. And also, this guy is the boyfriend of the woman who died, and he was at the apartment. So he goes to write this coroner's report about the murder. But then he gets threatened by this guy, like, comes into his house. He has no idea who he is. He's, like, in a balaclava and stuff. And he says, you're going to write this coroner's report, and you're going to rule her death as suicide, or else people around you are going to start disappearing. And then he gets knocked out and he wakes up in the hospital and he tells his friend, who is I'm pretty sure he's a prosecutor, about it. And then after telling him, he goes missing, and then he starts to like take it more seriously. And then he goes to investigate this guy because he finds him suspicious, and he ends up teaming up with him. Even though he still believes him to be the prime suspect, he's still very suspicious of them. The two end up teaming up and working together to try and solve this murder and find out who the murderer actually is and find out who this guy is who is threatening him. And yeah, it was interesting. You do find out who the murderer is in this first volume, but there is a second volume. It's 2 volumes long. I have obviously volume 2 is not out yet. I haven't read it, but yeah, this was very interesting. I enjoyed it. Obviously, there's also is a BL series, so there's nothing explicit, but stuff does happen. It is rated older teen, so yeah, sexual things do happen. It's just not very shown. So yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very good, and I liked the mystery, and I did kind of sort of guess to who the murderer was. Yeah, I thought it was a good, and I look forward to reading the second volume. Next up, I didn't read anything on the 5th, and on the 6th I read Marmalade Boy Volume 2, which I also gave 3.5 stars. Oh yeah, I gave that one 4 stars, by the way, Man of Death. So this is actually a 1.5 in one, but I did manage to read this all in one day. The Marmalade Boy is an older shoujo from the 90s, and it's just a bit of fun, really. It can get ridiculous at times with the premise and all that, but it's just a bit of fun. And I enjoy it. Yes, it is from the 90s, and yes, it does have its problematic elements, but that doesn't really bother me. I still enjoy the series. So yeah, we follow Miki, and Miki's just found out that her parents are going to get divorced and remarried to this guy's parents. So her mum is now marrying his dad, and his mum is now marrying her dad, and they decided that they're all going to live together in one house and be like one big extended family with the 2 sets of parents and the 2 teenagers living together in one house. And like, she's unsure of the situation, and the parents are kind of wacky, and yeah, it's just a bit of fun. But then she also kind of like, she doesn't like you because he can be a bit of a jerk, but she also sees his sweet side, which is why she calls him Marmalade Boy, because he can be tarty and sweet at the same time. But there's also this guy who is a guy she had a crush on in middle school, who she overheard him saying some stuff about her, and they kind of fell out, but now she likes him again. So there is a love triangle, which I don't normally like, but I'm kind of fine with it in this series because it's kind of more comedic. So yeah, I do enjoy this one. It's just a bit of like old 90s shoujo like fun. Next up, on the 7th, I read Made in Abyss Volume 11, which I gave 3 stars. So this volume starts a new arc. The previous volume kind of ended the Horror Village arc, which if you've seen season 2 of the anime, that's kind of what that covers. I have not seen season 2 of the anime because I don't have High Dive, and that's the only place I can watch it. I'm thinking of maybe just getting High Dive for a month, watching everything in there that I want to see, and then just cancelling it. Because I don't really want to be having High Dive, Crunchyroll, Netflix all going at once, so maybe if I just like pay to have it for 1 month, watch everything I'm interested in, and then just cancel it. Because most of the time the series that I'm interested in end up on Crunchyroll. So yeah, Made in Abyss is like, it's a fantasy adventure about this 12-year-old girl named Riko ends up meeting this robot boy named Reg, And they live on the edge of this huge abyss, and this abyss has mysteries, but this abyss also has like a curse to it, and if you descend, it's fine, but if you come back up, you get sick, and the deeper you go, the harder it is to come back up, and you get to a certain point, it becomes impossible to come back up, which is why they say people who try to get to the bottom of the abyss, they're going on their final journey, because there's no way they're coming back afterwards. But cave raiders, Rico's age, are usually only allowed to go at the first layer, because coming back up from the first layer, you get a bit dizzy and you get a bit sick, but that's it. But going down to like the second layer, you start to become a bit more, oh, like there's a sense of like fainting and stuff. Then you got the third level, and you try to go up, you start bleeding from all your orifices, and like the fourth level you start experiencing confusion, and then the fifth level and below you turn into like these creatures called hollows. And anyway, Rico, his mother was a white whistle cave raider, which is like the highest rank of cave raider, and she's gone down to the bottom of the abyss for her final journey. But Rico's kind of received these notes from her, and she's decided to go into the abyss with Reg, because Reg being a robot, he's immune to the curse, to try and find her mother at the bottom. Yeah, it's a good fantasy adventure series with... I do enjoy the adventure aspects, and I'm not very bothered about the fact it's quite brutal and dark. That's fine. But what is troublesome is the way the author draws the children. This series would be like 10 times better if the author didn't draw the children in that certain way. But anyway, if you can ignore that and get past it, it is a good adventure series. And as this volume's starting a new arc, it's just setting things up. So we're going to see how this arc plays out. But they are getting close to the bottom of the Netherworld now. I think they're on layer 7. I think there's 9 in total. And so I don't know how much longer it's going to take to get to the bottom. But I'm curious as to what's at the bottom. So I will keep reading. On the 8th and the 9th, it took me 2 days to finish this one. I read the other words books, Depend on the Bean Counter, volume 3, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is an Isekai BL series about an accountant named... what's his face? Kondo. Who ends up getting transported to another world mistakenly, because he sees this girl getting magically transported and he tries to save her, so he ends up transported as well. And this girl, she's the saint of this world. She's supposed to get rid of the miasma and save everyone, a bit like the Saint's magic powers omnipotent. Or there's some other series like that as well. But he gets dragged along and he can't go back, so now he's just kind of working as an accountant in the castle, like sorting out all the different departments' bills and stuff, because the budgets, they've all been basically given unlimited budgets, and the castle's going bankrupt, and he's kind of sorting that out and allocating budgets and stuff. But in the meantime, he also meets this soldier. I think he's the leader of the 3rd or 2nd Royal Order, something like that. And he's like a knight. And this guy, because he's from another world, he's kind of hasn't got a resistance. This world has something called magic cures in it, and people born in this world are used to them. But since he was born in another world, they're kind of toxic to him. And if he experiences too much of them, he kind of gets something called magic sickness. And the way to heal magic sickness is to like absorb the energy from somebody else who used to them. So this guy takes it upon himself to help heal his magic sickness by getting close to him, if you know what I mean. And also he keeps overdosing on potions and basically suffering from that as well. Yeah, I do like this series. It's quite interesting reading about his accounting stuff, but the main reason I read this is obviously for the BL elements. I do like these too. And we did get a few more of those sort of BL scenes in this volume, which I was happy about. So yeah, I don't know when we're getting volume 4. I think volume 4 was out in Japan, I'm not 100% sure. But isekai adaptations tend to be on quite a slow release schedule, because I think they don't come out that often in Japan, so I don't know when we're getting volume 4. But I'll look forward to it. Next, I read on the 10th. I read volume 2 of Honey Venom Soda, and I gave this 3.5 stars. I think I gave pretty much everything this month 3.5 stars. It's rare that I give anything like above a 7 or an 8, unless I super really like it a lot. Yeah, I like this more than volume 1. I didn't not like volume 1, I did enjoy volume 1, but I did think this volume was better. So at the start of this volume, we have Uka, I think her name is Uka, has gone on a class trip with the school to like the woods, and they're going hiking and stuff, and she's kind of over prepared, and they're kind of making fun of her for it a little bit, but then her being over prepared kind of helps them out, and so she starts to go a bit closer to some more of her classmates, and obviously this Kai's there as well, and then we also meet someone from Kai's past who he went to middle school with too. So yeah, Honey Venom Soda is about a shy girl called Uka who was bullied in middle school and called Rocky because she was like a rock. She just stood still and didn't really talk to anyone. And now she's come to this high school that she wasn't originally planning to go to this high school, but after meeting Kai in the street randomly, she applies to go to this high school, and she's gonna decide to try and do better in high school and fit in, and Kai's kind of helping her with that a bit. So yeah, it's a very cute series, and I'm definitely gonna be enjoying this. I know it's like 22 volumes long currently, and it's still ongoing, but I am enjoying this enough that I think I could definitely read that amount. Plus the artwork's super nice too. It's really nice art. Yeah, I'm enjoying Honey Venom Soda. It's a sweet shoujo high school romance. Next up, I read on the 11th, I read Twilight Out of Focus Volume 1, and guess what I gave this? 3.5 stars. So this is a BL, well it's a one-shot and it's not a one-shot because there is 3 volumes, but the other 2 volumes follow different characters. I'm pretty sure this is the only volume that follows these 2 characters. Anyway, these 2 are roommates, and when they started living together, they had these rules made up in which Mao will never tell anyone that Hiyashi is gay and has a boyfriend, that Hiyashi will never approach Mao in that kind of way, and that they respect each other's private times. And they said as long as they follow these 3 rules, they can continue to be roommates. And I think it's Mao is in... Yeah, Mao's in the film club, and he's making this film for like a school, like sort of film festival. And Hiyashi agrees to be an actor in this film, and yeah, they're filming this film, and Mao realizes that he like has feelings for Hiyashi, and he kind of can't open that page, and he realizes that he can't really do anything because of the rules and stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed this volume, even though there's some few weird angles during it, but I think it was they're trying to make it like artsy because it's about film and stuff. But yeah, overall I did enjoy this volume. I know the character that the second volume is going to be about is in this first volume, and I wasn't very keen on him, so I don't know whether to pick up the other volumes or not. Maybe I'll see. I might like him more if I actually read his story though. So yeah, I did enjoy this first volume. Obviously, this is a bit explicit. This is 18 plus, as I almost exposed. I hope I didn't actually show that. Anyway, next I read Love and Heart Volume 12, which I gave 3 stars. Volume 7. Volume 12, there's only 10 volumes in this series. There's no Volume 12. Volume 7. Now, not much was going on in the previous volume. It was just like the school festival, but a lot happened in this volume. A lot happened in this volume. And things have been exposed, and things have happened, and I really, really bloody hope that these two break up at the end and that they never see each other again, because I can't stand these two as a couple. So yeah, we have Yo and Haruma. And Yo's a university student, and one day this guy just comes to her house and is like, we're childhood friends, I'm gonna move in with you. And she's like, I don't remember having a childhood friend. He's like, well, you don't remember, but I am your childhood friend. I can get proof because I asked your mother, and she knows me. So he said, you can ask your mother yourself if you want, but I'm gonna live here now. And he just kind of moves in with her, and then weird stuff kind of starts happening, but she thinks he's like innocent and cute and couldn't hurt anyone, and she doesn't realise that he's responsible for everything that's kind of going on, but her friends kind of do realise, and her friends are kind of trying to deal with things. And yeah, it's a good like psychological romance, but I do not like this couple. And I just hope that they don't remain together in the end. And also, this is also rated mature, but there's nothing really all that explicit. Especially in this volume. I don't know why this volume was plastic wrapped. But yeah, it's a psychological dark romance between these two. I am enjoying reading it and seeing how fucked up it is, but I really don't want those two together. Next up, on the 13th, I read We Can't Do Just Plain Love Volume 1, which I gave 4 stars. This is a super, super spicy josei, which I cannot open at all because I might accidentally flip to the bot again. Anyway, this is about a woman who has a fetish that she likes to smell people. And then she meets her new boss at her new job. And he has a problem that whenever he gets close to a woman, he gets a boner. And he gets like shy and sweaty, and he doesn't really know how to talk to girls. And she just decides, you know what, I'm going to help you with this problem by desensitizing you to women, but so by having you spend time with me and like do things with me. And they end up entering into like this sort of deal where she's helping him get over his issues, and they end up having a lot of sex, and I think she's starting to fall for him. And yeah, it's very, very explicit. This one definitely needs the 18+ rating, and also this was not plastic wrap because it's Tokyo Pop, but it really needed to be. Let's see, I can show this page. So yeah, if you like your horny josei with a lot of steamy, juicy, spicy moments, I would highly recommend this one because the story is actually quite good and I really enjoyed it. For more than just the spicy scenes, I actually quite enjoyed the story as well, and I'm looking forward to picking up more. I think there's 2 volumes out currently, but yeah. Next up, I have Inspector, Volume 17. This took me 14 and 15 to read because Inspector's super wordy, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So yeah, Inspector's kind of episodic in terms of the cases that they're dealing with. And the first chapter of this volume finishes off the previous arc with the previous case. And the rest of this volume starting a new case, which is going to continue into the next volume. I don't know if they will continue past that though, because Inspector cases can last anywhere from 1 chapter to the longest one so far has been like 6 volumes. The first case, the Steel Lady Nanase arc, lasts for the first 6 volumes. And then the cases after that one have all been shorter, and it kind of only lasted like 2 volumes at the most. So I reckon this case will probably end in the next volume. But anyway, this case is about a samurai and a Yuki owner, where Kyotoko has been asked by this descendant of this samurai to find out what happened to his ancestor, because his ancestor got famous because he mastered this sword technique that no one else had mastered, and the way he mastered it was that he supposedly slayed a Yuki owner, and kind of got famous for that. But then a few years later, he adopted this kid, and then he died in mysterious circumstances, and the last words he muttered before he died were Yuki owner. And now this guy wants Kotoko to explain why those were his last words and how he died and what actually happened back then. I don't know how he expects her to know any of this, considering it happened like hundreds of years ago, but he wants her to solve this mystery. And obviously, she has to solve this mystery without revealing that supernatural creatures exist. Because they do exist in Inspector, but the humans aren't supposed to know that. So although there was actually a Yuki owner involved, she has to try and explain it in a way where there wasn't one involved. So you do get the true explanation of what actually happened, but then you also get her made-up explanation that she explains to him of what happens without any supernatural stuff involved. So you kind of get two solutions. And Inspector's very good. I love the mystery and the cases in this, and the main character, Kotoko. I really like her too. She's kind of horny and perverted, and she's great. Although Kotoko is like that, the series doesn't have any fan service in it. It's mainly just Kotoko's mind and speech. So yeah. Anyway, the Inspector starts where you have Kotoko becoming the god of wisdom to the spirits. Right, they take her away at 11 years old and they remove her leg and her eye, and that's kind of a symbol of her becoming the goddess of wisdom. So she now deals with supernatural mysteries and the problems that these yokai and spirits have, and she's got also Kuro is like something that's not supposed to exist because he consumed the flesh of two different yokai as a child, and now he's something more than human, and then they're kind of working together and solving it. And yeah, it's a very good series. And this case did take a bit of getting into because there's a lot of explanation behind samurai sword techniques and fighting schools, which I kind of wasn't interested in, but once it actually gets into the case and the stuff with the Yuki owner, it definitely gets more interesting. Next up on the 16th, I read Platinum Blood, which I think I gave 3 stars of 3.5. Platinum Blood is a BL. Yes. The Tokyopop age rating for this one says it contains explicit sex, religious kinks, age gaps, dubious consent, adoptive incest, and blood and violence. So you know this one's gonna be spicy. And it was. There we've got a priest and a vampire where he adopts this vampire when he's a kid, but vampires are fast growing and they age like quick compared to humans, so it's only like a few years before he is now basically the same age as him, and then he falls for him, and he wants to be sucking more than his blood anyway, and he does suck more than his blood, a lot more than his blood, and then there's kind of some plot points happening with him, and yeah, it's certainly an interesting read. This is another one where I can't maybe show many pages, but yeah, if you like explicit BLs with a lot of sex, and you don't mind any of this stuff, then maybe give it a read. Because, yeah, there's not much more I can say about it because it's just a lot of BL sex. Next, on the 17th, the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th, I read number 6, 7, 8, and 9, which I gave 4 stars, 4 stars, and 3.5 stars. So this is the final omnibus for number 6. Now, I was under the impression, because I'd read somewhere online, that the manga and the anime have different endings. But from what I've seen from reading this, I watched the anime a while ago, maybe I'm misremembering, but they had the same ending. So maybe I'm actually confusing things, and it is the novel that has the different ending. Because there is a series of novels too, but they don't have an English release, so maybe it's actually the novel that ends different and not the manga. Anyway, number 6 is great. And this right ends the story. There's also a lot of nice colour artwork in the beginning of this volume. So that's nice. So anyway, number 6 is obviously the story of Shion, who lives in a city called Number 6, which is like this, supposed to be this utopian city without any like crime or violence, or everyone lives a happy life and dies naturally of old age. But Shion realises that there's probably darkness beneath the surface when he comes across this boy called Rat, when they're both like 11 years old, and he's been injured and he helps him out, and you realise that Rat's a fugitive, but he refuses to give away his location, so Shion is demoted from like one of the top citizens to one of the bottom citizens and has to move into a new residence. And now that Shion's older, he's 16 now, he realises that something's weird going on in Number 6, where people are suddenly rapidly aging and then dropping dead in the middle of the streets. And Shion gets blamed for this, and he has to escape from Number 6 with Rat. And they start living in a place called West Block, which is where all the citizens that are not allowed to be in Number 6 live. And Shion starts to see the darkness in the world and how everything's not perfect as Number 6 will try to make it out to be. And they start to unravel like the dark secrets under and around Number 6. And obviously this is kind of a BL as well. That Rat and Shion do kind of have a bit of a relationship with each other, but it doesn't really go anywhere. As if you've read the series, you would know how it ends. So yeah, I do really enjoy Number 6. I thought it was a very good read. It's a, if you're into sci-fi and like futuristic settings with like dystopian sort of cities, definitely give this one a go. It's definitely a good read. Next up, on the 20th, I read Volume 22 of Red River and gave it 4 stars. This one kind of ends the current arc that they were on, and there was a few volumes, like 4 volumes, where they were in Egypt, and this kind of ends the part where they're in Egypt and she's kind of back in the Hittite, I think it's pronounced, Empire now, and I can't really say much about the series because I'm 22 volumes into it. There's massive spoilers this far into it. So I can't really say much more than like the plot is. It's an old shoujo isekai is it from the 90s or the early 2000s? But this one came out in 2008, so I don't know when it came out in Japan. And she's called Yuri, and she ends up getting pulled into the world of ancient, like the ancient Middle East, right, the Hittite Empire, where she's being used to cast a curse on the royal family because the Taiwanana, who is like the queen, wants her son to be the one to take over the throne, but he's like last in line to the throne, so she intends to use Yuri in a curse to eliminate all other competition so her son can be the one to ascend the throne. And then Yuri wants to go home, and she finds Kyle, who is one of the princes, who obviously doesn't want his stepmother's plans to go ahead. So he decides to help Yuri get home and kind of falls for her in the process. So it's got a few fantasy elements to this series, but mostly it's just historical action adventure in a ruin. So there is some slight fantasy elements, but the further you go into it, there's kind of less fantasy elements there is. They mainly just in the beginning. A ruin. So yeah, it's more of a historical than a fantasy. But yeah, I didn't actually realise that Kyle and Ramus were actually based off of real historical figures until I actually looked it up. Because I thought they were just made up. Obviously the story is fictional, but the characters, at least those two, are based off actual historical people. And I didn't actually realise that until I actually read a part in the manga that made me think, oh, did these guys actually exist? And I googled it, and apparently they did. And next, I'm gonna have to go shut the door because Robin's left it wide open. Because he can open doors. He jumps up and he puts his feet on the handle and he pushes it down and he just lets himself in. He lets himself out in the garden for a wee as well. It kind of comes in handy when you don't have to let him out, but he doesn't know how to shut the door after him when he comes back in. Anyway, on the 21st, I read Something's Wrong With Us, Volume 15, and I gave this 5 stars. Because I love this series. And this is the volume where you finally find out the answers, and I was so happy. Because normally I'm quite good at guessing with these things, but with this one I didn't. I didn't expect the killer to be who it was, but normally I would have guessed, but with this one I didn't, so that was like a pleasant surprise to actually finding out who it actually was. So yeah, love Something's Wrong With It. It's great, and I'm glad to see the proprietors finally brought down. So yeah, this series is great. If you want to just say like mystery, sort of like sweet making, it's about Wagashi and making sweets, but it's also about solving the murder of his father and clearing her mother's name because she got the blame for it, but it wasn't actually her. Yeah, there's mystery, there's some suspense, drama, romance, sweets. It's a very good series, and it's definitely a new favourite. I've just got volume 16. I haven't read it yet, but I am definitely looking forward to it because it's volume 16 will be the final volume in the main series, and then we get the 3 volume 17, 18, and 19, which are like, I think they're known as the newly read arc. I think that's what it said. Anyway, it's like a sequel side story thing. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of this. Because although the mystery's solved now, I'm still interested to see where these two are going to head. Yeah, love this series. Highly recommend it. Awesome. Next, I read on the 22nd and 23rd. I read In the Clear Mirror at Dusk 4 and 5. I gave these 4 stars each. This is a high school romance about a girl who is known as the prince of the school because people say she's very handsome. And then she meets up with this guy who is the second prince of the school, and he's the first person to really treat her like a girl because everyone else just sees her as like handsome prince. And the two of them decide to start going out on like a trial basis and see how things go. So yeah, there's definitely some progression with their relationship in these 2 volumes, and I was very happy for that, and I really enjoyed these 2 volumes. And yeah, I didn't realise that these both were out, but I must have like missed the release date for volume 4 and ended up getting to the point where there was 2 out at the same time. But yeah, I did enjoy these. It's a nice high school romance with it's just a good series. Next, on the 24th, I read the first volume of What He Who Doesn't Believe in Fate Says and gave it 3.5 stars. This is a new romance series about this guy who is able to see the red string of fate, which is like a soulmate thing where you have a red string tied around your finger which connects to the finger of your soulmate. And he likes this girl who he went to high school with. But since he can see the red string of fate, he can see that his red string of fate doesn't connect to her, and hers doesn't connect to him. So he decides, like, fate's stupid. I'm not going to believe in it. And just kind of ignores that. And then he's trying to, like, get her to notice him. And because she's desperate for a boyfriend, and she believes in fate, and she thinks she'll find her fated partner one day. But he's trying to, like, get her to notice him and realise that he's there and he likes her. But she so far hasn't done that. I like how in this one that it's in black and white, but the red string is actually drawn red. So I'm interested to see where this series is going to go, especially with how this volume ended. I'm now interested to what's going to happen next because of that. And whether things are going to get complicated. So yeah. This was a good one with an interesting premise. If I would recommend it. This is also, it's like adults as well. If you're a bit fed up of reading like teenage high school stuff, this one is adults. So yeah, I would recommend this one. Next up, I read on the 25th, I read volume 10 of Lobster, gave it 4 stars. This is more Lobster. There's a bit of a falling out in this one, and I think there's also most of this volume, I'd say about half and half. Half of this volume was focusing on the friend. Like, Eri's best friend, this girl here, and Rio. Quite a bit of this volume was focusing on them too, and then the other half was like Ome and Ellie. But yeah, this volume, there was a bit of a falling out. There was stuff with the friends, and it's only like 2 more volumes, I think, and then it's finished. I love Lobster. It's so good. It's quite funny too. Especially Ellie. I love Ellie as the main character. Next up we have volume 26. On the 26th I read volume 11 of Mao, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is more Mao. More like Rumiko Takahashi Mao sort of action adventure stuff with demons, yokai. If you like Inuyasha, this one's quite similar. So yeah, I like that this volume was more Nanako centric. Is it Nanako? Nanaka centric, and Nanaka was like had more to do with things, and she started to like be more involved, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this volume, and I'm looking forward to the next volume and see what's going to happen with this cursed sword. Next up, on the 27th, I read the first volume of Like a Butterfly and gave it 3.5 stars. This is a cute high school romance by Sumo Ishita, the same creators as A Sign of Affection. I think this was their first work, or at least their first long-running work. And this is about a shy girl who hardly speaks. All her life she's been admired, and everyone's been like attracted to her because of her beauty. So all the boys are after her in elementary school, so she decided to go to an all-girls middle school, but it turned out the girls were just as bad as the boys and coming after her. So when she goes to high school, she decides to go back to co-ed. But she hardly talks because people were saying that they admire her voice, and so she decides to stop talking. So she talks inside of her head, but she rarely talks out loud. Anyway, in high school, she meets this boy who is very bad at talking to girls, and he's fine with talking to other guys, but as soon as it comes to talking to girls, he kind of crams up and he never knows what to say. And then she starts to like notice him a lot and fall for him a bit. So it basically a romance between 2 very shy people coming out their shells and getting to know each other. And this first volume was definitely cute, and I definitely liked it, and I'm going to be getting more. Next up, I read the Snow White with the Red Hair, volume 24, on the 28th, and gave this one 3.5 stars. This was a good volume. I very enjoyed this volume. We're continuing this arc, which we started, I think, 1 or 2 volumes ago, and this volume got interesting. As I say, this is 24 volumes into a series, so I'm not going to be saying much due to spoilery reasons. But yeah, this stuff, I find this current arc to be quite interesting, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Like with this guy and the perfume and the tracking down of a person, and I won't say too much. Next, I read on the 29th, I read Insomniacs After School Volume 2, and this I gave 3.5 stars. So this volume kind of focuses a bit more on the stars because Volume 1 we met the characters, we learned about their insomnia and them sleeping in this old observatory, and then they kind of had to restart the astronomy club in order to be able to stay in the observatory. So now that they've restarted the club, this volume focused more on kind of photography and taking pictures of the stars, which I found to be quite interesting. Yeah. So yeah, if there wasn't enough astronomy in the first volume, this volume does introduce more of it, but it's mainly just photographing the stars at this point. They haven't really got into teaching about the stars or looking at them with the telescope yet, or finding the planets or anything like that. But there is a meteor shower happening soon, and they are organising an event to see that, as well as there's also a photography contest which they're going to enter in order to try and get money for the club. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one. It's very like slice of life, and it's slice of life and like just a relaxing read about these two kids and being unable to sleep and astronomy. 2 left. On the 30th, I read The Summer Hikaru Died, Volume 1, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is a horror BL, like very Lovecraftian, sort of eldritch sort of horror. About one day, this guy called Hikaru went into the mountains and was went missing. And then he came back a couple of weeks later, and his best friend noticed something different about him, and he asks, "Are you really Hikaru?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. I didn't expect that you would notice." So now he's realised that his best friend is not actually his best friend, and that he's something else. And it's very mysterious. We don't know who this creature is, or what he is, or what happened to Hikaru in the mountains, why this guy started like taking over for him. There's a lot of mysteries around this town. There's a lot of eerie, creepy stuff going on, and people warning him about things and hints as to stuff that might have happened in this town before, and like people like warning him away, saying what you're with isn't safe. But he's kind of obviously he misses his best friend, and he said he would rather have this creature pretending to be his best friend with him than have no best friend at all. So he's kind of reluctant to kind of distance himself from Hikaru, but he's also a bit scared of him at the same time, because obviously he's not the real Hikaru, and he's just like an imitation. So yeah, this is definitely interesting, and definitely going to be keeping up with it. And last of all, on the 31st, I read Delivery for You, which I only gave 2.5 stars. This was okay. There's this guy, he fancies the Amazon man who delivers his parcels, so he keeps ordering more parcels, so he keeps going to the door. But he thinks he's not good enough for him because he thinks this guy's super cool, and he's just like this shut-in nerdy guy who plays a lot of video games and works in a laundromat. So yeah, there's also a short story in here called The Real Reason Why We Aren't Popular, which was not very good. It was 2 chapters and it was a bit pointless. So yeah, it was okay. If you want a short BL, bit of smut at the end between this guy and the Amazon man, then maybe give it a go. But I personally wouldn't really recommend it. It's just very mediocre. So yeah, and that is it for the month, and that's everything I read in August, and I hope to see you next week for a manga haul. We will see. It all depends whether my sci-fi order arrives or not. Because currently only a few, like, the 2 volumes that I ordered from Black Rose have come, and the thing I got from eBay has come. I just need to wait for sci-fi, which has the majority of my manga in it, to arrive. So hopefully by next week I'll be seeing you for a haul. So for now, bye bye.